In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to week 10 of Look Who's Chalking. Week 9's wrapped up, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, we're going to throw a quick congratulations to not me, but Gary over here, who just waxed a $100,000 NBA DFS tournament. Obviously, he works for Establish the Run, so he's not just doing these Sunday football tournaments, but he's doing, he's in the bunkers on a daily basis. I'm one of those weekend warriors. I have to save my paycheck up, and then I go out on a Friday night, and I'm like, oh, my God, I can't go out again until next week. He's going out every night of the week. He's that guy, the one who's going out Monday, Tuesday, happy days. He's out every day of the week, and he met the hottest girl, which is $100,000. And, Gary, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
This is 2 wins for you, 1 football, 1 NBA, and I'm clearly a jealous guy, but I can greedily hope that your success kind of trickles down onto me.
Yeah, right onto you peons over there.
Yeah.
No, man, it's
Can you spare a ticket, a 25-center?
I need $1.25. No, it was very nice. It was validating. I'd won a couple NBA things before any of my NFL stuff. Kind of really got me going on this DFS semi-pro, whatever you want to call me these days. But this was my biggest NBA win by far. My second biggest GPP takedown. The $100,000 was like the flagship Draftkings tournament on any given night. And I don't mass enter NBA every night, but I kind of take a quick look at the slate and see if it's something that I'd want to mass enter. And I kind of made a decision last minute on Monday night that I was going to. And thank goodness that I did, because it worked out well. So feeling good this week, really hoping that it kind of just slides right into my success with NFL this week. So I like this week 10 slate. I think it's an interesting one to look at. I'm excited to dive in.
So out of curiosity, you won the Millionaire last year, week 9. You won the $30,000 NFL, week 8.
I won the slant this year, yeah.
You won the slant this year. Now you won this NBA tournament, and I believe you won an NBA tournament. So let's say it's not you. Let's say you call yourself a kind of whatever you called yourself, a semi-professional. So let's say you're one of those other names up there. How often are they taking home first place? How often do professionals take home first place?
So I know this kind of sounds crazy because of what I've won in the past, but I still don't have the bankroll at all compared to some of these other guys. So that's the difference, right? Like Osimo, for example, is maxing out every single tournament of every single sport every single night. So by pure math, that guy's going to take down more tournaments than the majority of the people. These guys that have been in it now for 7 or 8 years and have won so many of these GPPs, especially when this was a completely different game 6 or 7 years ago, they built themselves up to this point where they're just positioned to win more.
Yeah, but you say Osimo, I don't mean it like that. The Gary Hartman, your Bizarro version, the inverted version of you.
Yeah.
Got a deep tan, he's 6'7", and he's
so they're not pale and 5'6" and Jewish. This is like an Italian Amalfi Coast 6'7", very tan person. This is the inverse of me directly, right? The exact inverse.
Absolutely. Oh man, hey, look, we did our quick 5 minutes before the show, and I told you you're old school. You can take them, and that's a beautiful thing to see.
I think the exact inverse of me is like a 6'10" African-American NBA player that's really into Christianity, like Jonathan Isaac on the Magic. That guy's 6'10". I think he's the exact inverse of me. Exactly. So there we go.
Absolutely, man. Definitely. So let's say
I get what you're saying. So
that version of you for Osimo. So not Osimo as a company.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
An individual within a company who would tell me that he's a professional, how often is he taking down first place next to his name?
I think as a tournament player like that, you're just hoping to have 1 or 2 binks per season, right? So especially in the $15 or $100K tournament like that, that's it. I mean, that's the goal. 1 or 2 a season would be.
So Gary, you're doing
fantastic.
fantastic, and it doesn't. You don't have to listen to me or know me long to know I'm somewhat of a credit refuser. Even when I see players in the pros, I see a goalie in the NHL, everyone gets excited over. I go, let me see this for 3 years, and I'll give you the proper assessment. I'm a big 3-year guy. So for you to once you hit this third tournament, I'm like, oh yeah, enough is enough. This is a great job you're doing. So
Thank you.
This will be one of the rare times I compliment somebody and say, no, this is a fantastic decision, and you're doing a great job.
Well, I appreciate that. You just did the opposite of what we were talking about off air. You did the quick insult followed by the compliment, which is not heard of very much in the quick insult game. Usually it's compliment, quick insult. You went quick insult, compliment. So I appreciate the reverse.
Yes, we were talking about most people, your friends, when they're about to insult you, they give you just a quick compliment to like pave the way for the insult. Like, oh, we all know and love the kid, but I mean, he smells like shit. Which is disingenuous because you just threw a quick bone, but what's lasting is that you smell like shit. An authentic thing to do would be what I just did. This is a great thing. Right. I gave him a quick insult, called him the opposite of tall, dark, and handsome.
Right, the opposite, yep.
But I left him with the true insult, or the true compliment as he's doing a damn good job. And I actually mean it. I'll take the full lie detector test and everything.
I appreciate it. Who would have thunk it, like in 2015 when we were crustily putting together a couple lineups with like, oh God, I don't even know.
Yeah, Lamar Miller. Lamar Miller against the Colts. My whole life was built on Lamar Miller on the road against the Colts.
And and we had a weekly visit. Andy and I's offices were right next to each other. We had a weekly visit from one to the other to talk about how bad Phil Rivers was, just checking down and throwing into the ground. It was just, it was like clockwork. Every week I could be ready for Andy's rant on Phil Rivers.
Captain checkdowns. I'm going to credit my friend Rob. He said to me, he goes, dude, you missed out on the opportunity, because I always went off about him being captain checkdowns, and I hit the prop bet on him every single week for his running back. It was Melvin Gordon over like 16 receiving yards. He hit it every single week other than the 1 week against the Broncos. When I tripled my bet, it's like somebody knew. But regardless, he goes, how did you not do the meme of Teddy KGB going chick, 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 but just looping it, because I can do that, and just having Rivers in the back, chick, 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 chick. Anyway, it's a great. I have to give him credit, because that would be funny. Maybe I'll do it with Derek Carr, because he's the next iteration, or maybe the Saints sign Rivers, like I heard that little rumor that was floating around. Great call. Let's talk two things real quick before we get into games, because there were two big pieces of news today that are going to impact DFS. One just happened: Odell Beckham signing with the Rams. Hate it.
We both hate it, but it impacts things, because Stafford, one, just locker room dynamics, two, but three, Cooper Kupp's having this all-world season, and you just can't, he's not Van Jefferson. He's coming onto the field. He's going to demand some targets. It does naturally lower the floor of Cooper Kupp just a tiny bit, and Robert Woods probably even more so. So it's annoying.
Look, regardless of what you want to say, maybe he'll be more humble in the new situation. I don't dislike the guy as much as, many people, but he's the kind of guy where you have to kind of get him the ball a certain amount. You can't just leave him out of the... Robert Woods, he ain't a complainer. No. We haven't heard a peep out of Woods. Bobby Tree's doing what you knew he would. He shut his mouth in Buffalo, shutting his mouth over here. He's good guy. But Odell, I just... Aaron Rodgers would have got him a bunch of... looks. He just would have, especially without Tanyan anymore. He would have got him a bunch of ball. I mean, this is very hard to see how he's this big up. What is he going to do that they don't? Yeah. They move the ball easily through the air. Good run. It's silly. They have a good tight end.
I want to know for him, I really think it's all about his respect level for the coach. Does he actually have the same level of respect for McVay as he supposedly does for Belichick? Because I didn't think he was a good fit in New England, but I actually think that would have been the one place that we've seen Belichick do it over and over with some of these, quote unquote head cases, kind of reel them in. So, and you just know they have this relationship, Odell and Belichick, but I don't know what kind of level of respect he has for McVay. I remember when the Giants originally traded Beckham, the Rams were the other team that was really in the running there. So McVay's wanted Beckham for a long time. I don't think Beckham's that great anymore. I don't know if it's going to screw up all the Rams' fantasy success. Hopefully not. But that's the one thing. And then Cam Newton signed with the Panthers today for real money. It looks like it's inevitable that he's going to be taking over that starting job sooner than later. So can't do much worse than Darnold's done recently. So just keep an eye there.
Yeah. Yeah, DJ Moore, I think even if Darnold was healthy, he was bound to have a couple more big games. A good thing, I guess, if you're going to play McCaffrey, Newton has no problem getting him the ball a ton. That was a Norv Turner offense, but regardless, he's very comfortable getting him the ball in the air. So,
yep.
And who knows, maybe that threat of Newton's running will open up even more holes for McCaffrey. So could be potential huge days for him coming.
I'm curious to see how he looks because, like, we saw before he got COVID last year, like weeks 1 through 4 in New England or whatever, he was pretty good and he was fantasy relevant. Got COVID, didn't look the same for the rest of the season. I don't think, obviously, I think his best days are behind him, but he's back home, back where he probably feels the most comfortable. I think in good matchups, Newton is going to be usable in DFS this season. I really do. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, for sure. So then why don't we get on to I'm sick.
I'm sick.
I'm sick. I'm sick.
I swear to God, I'm sick.
I am sick.
My name is Andy, and I was close to the millionaire, and I'm sick. Okay? Everybody has their story. One of my other friends, I texted, how many people do you think were taken out of the million with a penalty or a offside or whatever?
I can tell you what took me out. Devontae Booker, I was like 3x the field. He got over 100 yards for the bonus, lost 2 yards, got to 99 yards exactly, and it brought me from like being even to like being down $1,000. Like literally that 1 yard from Devontae Booker, who was having a solid day.
Okay.
Not hitting
even
the bonus.
to down $1,000, but we're talking about people whose name was
right.
in
I'm sure,
that
but I'm sure
million
that kind of thing
for-
happened. You know.
The worst part is the brief time that you see it there because the play's up, but then it gets taken off and you get moved out of the million. I was 20 points away from the million, not just with one player left. I had my full game stack going into potential overtime with Herbert, Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Devontae Smith. And then the full fourth quarter of Kittle, Ayuk, and Rondale Moore. My whole roster needed to cover 20 points, and nobody had this amount of pie left, the minutes remaining or whatever. And I just was looking around like, how the hell am I not going to get this? And let me tell you how. The Chargers go for it on a 4th down, get it, kick a game-ending field goal instead of that game going to overtime, and then a game where Ayuk, Kittle were piling up points, down multiple touchdowns, just goes fully dry in the 4th, and I just go home. I hit 1,600 for the weekend, but as I explained with Gary's millionaire loss when he won 30,000, that's really a 970 grand loss. Look, it doesn't feel as if Gary's actually won $1 million, so it probably hurts more. But to come out with 1,600 under those circumstances, gambling has a way to do that to you. But remember, this is not gambling. But anything where money's involved
wagering
has a way to do that to you, where even when you win, you lose, as Rosie Perez said in White Men Can't Jump.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was about to quote Rosie Perez. By the way, kudos to you, because I said this to you right before the show. I think you little fingered the hell out of that week. Week 9 was chaotic, ridiculous. I think we're going to look back at this week and just think, what the fuck happened? Because Josh Allen went into Jacksonville, got fucking shellacked. Dak Prescott has Denver come into Dallas. Everyone loved that spot for Dallas, and they just got completely destroyed. The Browns go into Cincinnati after all this Odell drama. Cincinnati coming off this Jets loss. People are thinking they're back home in division. They're going to put up things. They score 41 points and just destroy them. And besides, there were a couple things we got right, though, right? We nailed Chubb. Congratulations on that. You had probably the best man's warehouse of the season, either that or the Mike Williams.
Yeah, I said he has the capability of being the number 1 running back of the week. You get that kind of player, and if it wasn't for Connor going batshit crazy,
well, there you go.
We're going to get the number 1.
That game makes me absolutely sick because honestly, my read on it was solid. I knew I wanted to be completely off Arizona with Kyler probably not playing /hobbled, so I wasn't interested in any of those receivers. I wasn't going to go in Connor or Edmonds because they were taking each other away. So when Edmonds goes down in the first quarter, Connor then has that ceiling. I should have been in on it a little bit, but God, James Conner's driving me absolutely nuts this season. Yeah. And then on the San Francisco side, kudos to you for not buying into the Kittle hype. I was really in on Ayuk. We both were. I was well over the field on Ayuk, but Kittle scared me still, and I didn't go there. So,
so for not buying in on the Kittle is going to be limited hype.
Right.
So,
kudos to you on that. And then Lamar, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I will say, how I've always stated, like, I hate the weeks where there's no buys. I hate the week where there's no buys because there's so many players, and I feel like it benefits those mass entry people where they can put their little tarantula arms on everything. They can touch everything. They can play 8 pianos. They got 4 hands, 24 fingers each.
Yeah, that's not the way to do it.
But me, I'm playing. I'm doing the 2-finger piano play over here. Oh man, I'm really firing today, dude. But the point I wanted to make, and me and my friend Dave, Dave, we said we've always loved the weeks where everybody goes everybody craps out.
Right, which is
because
this week.
I'll take my sniffing ability. I got big nostrils. I'll take my sniffing ability over the few that do over other sniffing ability. And it was one of those weeks. So give me, and it's no coincidence, the last 4 weeks have been my best. Bye weeks are going on and crap outs are happening. That's me, baby. Little finger of DFS.
I like it, man. So the only thing I'll say is the Marquise Brown one ended up working out too. I mean, they needed overtime to get there, but Lamar was the right read. Herbert was the right read. Chubb was the right read. Literally, if you stayed within that, if you stayed on Herbert game stacks, Lamar game stacks, and then a lot of Chubb, you were going to be successful that week. The problem was there was all these other spots that completely crapped out that didn't work out. So it was a crazy week, chaotic week. I'm ready to move past it. Kudos to you for having such a great lineup and doing so well. I think there's going to be a lot more success coming for you soon here. You're doing a very good job. I'm
only a guy who wins $100,000 can congratulate someone else on their big success. So let's take a look at week 10.
Yep.
So last week I'd said a lot of these games could be big or not at all. I pointed to that Cincinnati game, and I did point to that Sam Free. I know you were fully off, but I said, there's just too many names and playmakers in there that those Niners-Cardinals games also have a tendency to be a little wacky. It's rarely like 13-10 or something, other than when Trey Lance played, but that's kind of a glitch game. And this week, I guess it looks a little more like a slate where there's a few that people might focus in on, but not really, if you ask me.
Right.
It's closer to last week where I could see that one going off, but I could also see it stalling out.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at this slate, what's the number one? Is it the Cowboys, Falcons? Just because
couple that are really tied for me. So like I feel like I have a much stronger grasp on this slate than last week, and I really see it where last week I was okay paying down for some value at quarterback. I talked about Tua and some other spots who didn't end up playing, obviously. This week I think it's a spend up spot at quarterback. I really only see 4 to 6 guys that have a realistic shot of getting there in a winning or perfect lineup this week. And the game environments are easy to pick out. So yeah, I think it's the Dallas game. I think it's the Tampa Bay Washington game. I think it's the Jets the Buffalo Jets, just from a Josh Allen perspective. And then I think that it's the Chargers once again with the Vikings. And those are the main 4 spots. Then I'll talk about 2 others that I think have a chance. We'll get there. But those 4 games are the ones that really stand out, particularly Tampa Bay, Washington, Atlanta, Dallas, Chargers, Minnesota. The 3 50-point plus are just really all strong environments this week.
All right, so then let's go with, I always have the implied team totals to my right. And I'm looking at first place, and anytime they're on the Sunday slate, many times they're not. But this time, Dallas Cowboys, 32 points or close to it. I mean, I think it has what it opens at, but around 32 points. And sometimes when you see them play against garbage competition, maybe it's not as exciting because the other team you're not scared to keep up. But they have, they have the Falcons as putting up 23. So this, according to Vegas, has the potential of a shootout. Now, Dallas screwed everyone last week. And my theme of the year, you don't have to trust me, I'm just some guy, but in gambling, this is not gambling, remember, it's DFS. But in any money-related situations, anytime people screw, I love them the next week. I love people who screwed you last week because I just think people are they're scared to click enter because they don't want to be gotten 2 straight weeks. Do you think Dallas is good? Dallas players are going to be high owned?
Yeah. So I just want to, I'll ask that question in 1 second. I just want to add to your point. Not only did Dallas screw everyone last week, Atlanta's coming in on the biggest letdown spot possible because they went into the Superdome last week and won. So you take those 2 things together, the letdown spot for Atlanta, the comeback spot for Dallas in Dallas, and I think it puts Dallas as my favorite overall team of the week, which clearly Vegas agrees with. I think that, yes, they're going to be highly owned only for 2 reasons. 1, the matchup, but 2, it's kind of like the equivalent of like LeBron and the Lakers in basketball's DFS nights. Like you're never going to fully get LeBron at no ownership because it's LeBron and the Lakers. Dallas gets a little bit of that too. They always have a floor of ownership because the casuals and Millie. It's true though. It's true. The casuals that are throwing money into the Millie particularly want to be on the Cowboys. There's more fans of them than anyone else. So it's Zeke's coming through as a top 5 running back percentage this week too, and Dak will be up there, I'm sure. But not to the extent where I'm scared of anyone, because this is all such a fantastic week. So
do you think of those receivers, maybe CeeDee Lamb, because he had a poor week and is more expensive, will be maybe lower owned? Are people going to be excited to play Gallup, or is nobody going to touch? Like, that's what I'm just wondering. When you look, there's so many different options within that team. It's interesting that you say Zeke is going to be highly owned, because I watched that game and I saw a guy who left the game and maybe would have reduced snaps even by a small amount, maybe 55%. But I guess other people see it differently, just because it's Atlanta and they're easily maybe run on.
So I think because there are so many really strong wide receiver spots in the mid and high range, all of these guys' projections from the receivers are going to be held in check ownership wise, at least to the point where we're not seeing Cooper Kupp 33% numbers. So right now we're looking at like Lamb and Cooper at around 10 to 15%, depending where you look. That's totally fine for those guys. I'll be over on those. I get scared when I'm seeing a receiver shoot up to 20%, 25%, which I think the only guy we're really looking at that right now on the receiver side of things is like Devontae Adams. I think some of the Steelers guys have the ability to get there. We'll get there when we get there. But running backs are where you're seeing a lot of the ownership condense around this week, and receivers are going to be spread out because there's all these really strong game stacks.
Do you think Cordarrelle Patterson will be played a lot?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, indoor in a game like that with a lot of, it seems like that would
Patterson's coming through right now as the fourth or fifth highest owned on the slate at around 15%. Okay. But all of these guys, and we'll get to some of these other guys in a minute, but Najee Harris, Eckler, Zeke, Patterson, Jonathan Taylor, Fournette, they're all right in that range. And then there's a little drop off to some of the other plays we like, which we'll get to in a little bit. So interesting ways to try to navigate around that, but they're all really going to be like around 10 to 20, 12 to 20% on all these guys.
Okay, and then I guess we'll move right down. Is that good? Do you need anything else with that game?
No, I would just say I'm good. There's only, all of those guys are good. Gallup, I don't know. He's only coming through at 4% right now. I think doubles make sense there. Zeke, if he's healthy, makes sense there. Pollard makes a lot of sense there as well, especially if Zeke's a little bit banged up, and Atlanta's vulnerable on both sides there. And then I will say you're only running back really two guys on Atlanta. It's really only Pitts and Patterson. If this game does shoot out, Pitts, they're going to line him up like a wide receiver. I don't think they'll throw digs on him. If they do, I think they'll be able to get him in the inside and move him around a little bit. So if this game does, Pitts is the guy alongside Patterson.
Yeah. Vegas has, I know this is something like you say it's just a bunch of people making up a number, but they have Pitts at a pretty high yardage.
Yeah, I know. I like Pitts. I like Pitts a lot. And I'm not really interested in Gage.
He's a scumbag.
He's bad. He's just bad.
Do you imagine he heard that?
Bad.
Imagine somebody clipped that.
So I think the only time I don't even know if Gage is going to be in my player pool this week, but if he is, he will only be able to go on the other side of a double Dallas stack. I need super correlation there. So it's the only time he ever is making my pool. But yeah, you got to be all over that game. It's just hard not to be.
Okay, the next one, I feel like you're maybe more excited about this. Maybe I would be excited with this news coming out. I don't know. All the signs seem as I don't know, man. This is a little weird. And that's Tampa. And unless they've changed the number, I'm seeing them projected around 31 points. They are on the road against Washington, and I'm going to just rapid fire these out, and then you can do the analysis. But it's pretty scary when Antonio Brown's not going to play. Rob Gronkowski's not going to play. You have Godwin, it came out. He's pretty injured. So you're going to have one receiver who really is going to threaten you, and then Fournette, and then those other pieces, the Scotty Millers and Johns. This to me does not seem like a Brady blow up spot. You can literally take away two weapons, but you can't just have Evans.
So the problem is that Washington's pass defense is so bad. And we've been talking about it all year. It's an attack spot. Tampa's coming off the bye.
Is Washington, right?
Right. Yeah, I believe Washington is too. All Tampa does is throw. That's the thing. He's going to throw in any game script and any time. And when the matchup says throw, then it's impossible to fade, because they want to throw anyway, even if it's a team that they should be attacking on the ground. This matchup says throw. Evans, historically, I saw numbers recently about his numbers historically without Chris Godwin on the field. So if Godwin doesn't play, I think Evans will draw a lot of chalk, but for good reason. It's fantastic matchup. And then But like the doubles are okay too, because you can get Evans in there in almost every one of them. And then what's fun about the doubles in Brady stacks this week, if Godwin, Brown, and Gronk all don't go, your doubles are cheap unless you're going Fournette and Evans. So your doubles are either going to include Evans and Tyler Johnson, who's probably going to be the best $3,300 play on the slate, or Howard or Brate, because we talk about going with the team's cheap tight end when you double stack. So it really works out, and you can get McLaurin in those. I'll be all over this game. I understand you're being a little frightened with just the lack of skill position players, but Brady's the MVP favorite right now. Like, he's playing some of the best football of his career.
That's true.
And here we go. So Mike Evans, this is Matthew Betts on Twitter, played 4 games without Chris Godwin over the last season and a half. In those games, 8.5 targets, averages 6 receptions, 81 yards, a touchdown, average of 20 PPR points in those games. So just from an average of 6 games, he's averaging 20 points. That's pretty good. No one on Washington slowing him down. And Fournette, I think Fournette has such a high pass catching floor this week as well.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, if you somehow you want to smash with a low owned guy with a high potential ceiling this week, McLaurin's so expensive.
Yep.
There's no way people are paying for him, because they didn't pay for him before the bye. They raised his price, but he's going against Tampa. They're vulnerable throwing, or their pass defense is vulnerable. It will screw you if he doesn't do well. But when you're looking for plays that are going to differentiate you in a tournament, and you don't feel like, oh my God, I just played some guy. You know that feeling when you play someone like, oh, I did this to be different, and he puts up a 2, and there goes your tournament.
Yep.
At least no matter what, even if he has 1 catch in the first half, he has the ability to go nuts at any point because of
McLaurin.
how they force feed him the ball.
7,600, so you're right, expensive. Only coming through at 5%. I will say this, correlate them. Like, there's so many good bucks in your game. You want a piece of that game anyway. Even if you're not going Brady, throw him in on the other side of a Fournette, an Evans, a Tyler Johnson, one of those 2 tight ends. I don't care how you do it. Correlate them, and you're maximizing your McLaurin exposure. So,
all right, I'll let you take the next one.
Yeah, so I think we just got to go to the minute, or is that at 4 o'clock? Should we stay in the ones?
That's a 4.
All right, let's stay in the ones.
Actually, the ones that, no, I'd rather do the ones that we focus on, and specifically, and
I have one more that I really want to focus on, actually.
Yeah, well, Minnesota for me too. That's why I think we should hit it.
Okay.
Detail.
All right, so we'll do that, and then we'll go back to something else. All right, so Minnesota Chargers is, 53-point over-under, and the Chargers are only favored by 3.5 or 3 at home right now. So
Chargers 28 points, and then Minnesota 25 points. A recipe for both teams scoring. I'll start just by saying I want to give that little precursor. This does have the chance to be one that goes flat. We've seen Minnesota all of a sudden, their defense.
And the Chargers. We've seen them both do it.
Yes. When I say this can go either way, to both deep ends of the spectrum.
Yep. Wide range of outcomes. Very wide range of outcomes.
So just know that.
But I'm with you, though. Like, Herbert is so freaking frustrating to me, because I mean, you both, we've been on him a lot this year, and we know his ceiling is mid-40s, but his floor is mid-teens, and it's like, he's so freaking good, but at home in this matchup doesn't scare you. It's really hard not to look towards this game. My favorite overall play from this game, 2 guys. I think we're both in on both these guys. Dalvin Cook, he's getting not looked at enough because he's 8,000, and there's all those names we talked about. Najee's going to be the biggest chalk. Jonathan Taylor's going to be major chalk. So those are guys in the same range. At 10-11% Cook in a great matchup, that's where you attack the Chargers on the ground. I love Dalvin Cook this week.
Look, Dalvin Cook showed you. He came back 2 weeks ago, had a decent game, popped the long run last week, and I know they're going to say, oh, yeah, but then his other 16 went for 4. Yeah, he had 125 yards. You're going to bank that they give him all that work, and he's going to crack 2 of them. That's most running backs in the NFL, by the way. Yep. They have a bunch of short ones and break 2 long ones, and then people go nuts about their huge yards per carry on the day.
Exactly.
He's ramping that up. So production like this, health is fine. Little side distraction. We don't talk about those things here. And the only thing that's been missing is touchdown, that long touchdown run. And when you're talking about a team like the Chargers who get cracked up the middle, maybe people will forget because they played a team with Bell and these rusty old men last week. Well, Cook is not a rusty old man, and he's set to go off against them. And I think with Herbert's low floor, I think that's baked into the price. Because if he didn't have that low floor, he wouldn't be things like 7,300. He'd be 7,800 or 8,100. You know what I'm saying? He's one of these elite level quarterbacks because, like I keep saying, they don't have a real running back. Their running back, Eckler, is a great receiver who also happens to run the ball here and there.
Yeah. I mean, he's not a he's a solid in between the tackles running back too, but the way they use him is correct. That is right. But yeah, Mike Williams, though, is my favorite play from the Chargers side for skill position. So if you look at his game log, people are going to be scared off, right? Exactly the same line the last 3 weeks. 2 catches on 5 targets and nothing else. So now what happens, though, is price is baked in. Only 3 weeks ago, he was 8,100. He's all the way down to 6,600 now. And
last week, up against Slay, every play.
Right. And no one's playing him. No one's going to play him. He's coming through like 6% owned in a great matchup. And his ceiling is 40 points. So
just lose. Right. If he doesn't do well and say, look, I have to play him.
Listen, if you're an MME player like me, and if that ownership stays around 6%, you're stupid not to 3x the field. Get up to 18%, Mike Williams. He fits so many constructions too. He's not too expensive. So love him. Keenan Allen starting to come back on, like looking like old Keenan Allen. He's a fine play as well. Eckler, I think people will be a little bit more off of after busting last week, but he's still coming through with a lot of ownership. They dropped his price
to 73.
Right. So all these guys are solid plays. The only thing you got to, be a little bit careful of is the Jefferson and Thielen side of things. The Chargers are very good against outside receivers. That said, if you're fully game stacking this, you can't fade those guys. I'm just saying I'd rather be on the Cooks and even Tyler Conklin because they're decent against tight ends over the Jefferson and Thielen this week. But, those are going to be fine plays too.
Perfect. And I think did you hint that there was one other?
Yeah. I really want to talk about Detroit, Pittsburgh. So
there's no reason not to.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I said I'm going to be interested in like 4 to 6 quarterbacks this week. We talked about Brady, Dak, Herbert, obviously those guys. I'll just mention this quickly. I'm very into Josh Allen this week too. It's a perfect setup spot against the Jets. 14.5 point favorites. There's no way they're letting themselves go against one of the bottom 5 teams again in division and with the same outcome as last week. They're going to put their foot on the gas this week against the Jets, and Josh Allen has a very high ceiling because of it. That's all I'll say. I like Allen. I like Diggs. I like Sanders.
On the flip side, you got the confirmation that the Jets' legendary quarterback, what's his name? Mike White.
Mike White's playing, which helps.
Yeah, it helps big time because if you need to put people back the other way, go look how he played when he had his full start and in his game in relief. You're talking about buckets of catches. We said that for Carter, the running back, and also. Look how he used Jamison Crowder.
Yep.
So you're talking about 4,900, 5,600. I mean, you could be just
those
tons
two
of plays in there.
Those two, and then Elijah Moore, you can consider for run backs. But as always with these Bills, big spreads, you don't necessarily need one. You can go singles without a run back and go doubles without a run back. But if you do want it and it fits into your construction, go for Carter or one of those guys for sure.
Seriously, like really, you're going to get free points with Carter.
Yep.
Just think about it.
So then the other guy I'm considering, and I haven't fully broken down if I'm going here yet because I think he's completely cooked, but I'm considering Ben Roethlisberger. Now, it's the best matchup he's going to have all season against Detroit. Here's the thing. Pittsburgh's become a spot. Claypool's probably not playing. Rappaport came out with a tweet that looks like he's got a toe thing. Yeah, he's going to be out for a couple weeks. So Deontay Johnson's in a fantastic spot. I think his ownership still was like around 10% yesterday. I think that's going to shoot up. But these guys, and maybe I like it more for secondaries with like Hawkinson and Swift, and then Johnson and Najee is coming through as the most owned guy in the slate right now, but he's going to get Derrick Henry volume this week in a fantastic matchup. He's going to get Derrick Henry rushing volume with a higher receiving floor. So I understand that chalk and I'm fine eating it. But Ben, how expensive is Ben?
57 or something like that.
Right. He's 5,600. Okay. So you just need his best game of the year. He hasn't scored more than 18 points this year. If you can get him up to like 24 at 5,600 and you nail the construction around him, he's had pretty much tough matchups in almost every week. He's not good. I know that. But because we're going to be using a lot of Deontay Johnson, a lot of Najee Harris, and my favorite play of the week, Pat Firemouth, who is just becoming his favorite target quickly, and they're taking out the red zone target of Claypool.
Always a bad sign. I always look at it when the cops drive by.
Me.
That's a bad. They're trying to tell you either. So, I don't know. Maybe they're trying to tell you you're onto something, or stay away.
So three touchdowns the last 2 weeks, 6 targets, 7 targets the last that he's become their, one of their primary players. Plus, he just fits so well into what Ben's trying to do, which is middle of the field, check down stuff, as the cops were telling me, run the hell away from this game.
They are, yeah. Just remember this. If you're one of those, hey, man, I rubbed the crystals and the cops came, this ain't the game for you.
Anyway, because there's so many pieces in this game that make a lot of sense, Ben, if you need a cheap quarterback this week, and I'm not saying you need to do it, he's the only guy I'm interested in. So, it's just those guys. Do you have anything to say on this game? I just think the Pittsburgh side is really
Jamal Williams has not practiced. He missed the last game. Something's up with him. It's probably more serious. Don't be scared to play Swift. The same reason you shouldn't be scared to play him against the Rams, against better teams. I remember when Goff played Pittsburgh 2 years ago. He got absolutely destroyed in Pittsburgh. Don't be surprised when he's just dumping it off. And if Pittsburgh goes up big, don't be surprised when their D just drops back and allows him to check it down.
All day.
Could be a big game for him.
Yep.
Gary already said a bunch of other running backs are top, so that means he's not top 5, 6, 7. So,
it's one of my
look at Swift.
It's also one of the few spots this week, and I barely ever do this, but it's because I like Najee so much and Firemouth so much. It's one of the few spots this week that I'm okay with a double secondary, where if you want to have 2 Steelers in your lineup without Ben, I'm okay with it. It makes sense to me. So, it's a spot in Pittsburgh this week. You just keep in mind the game total's not that high, whatever, but Pittsburgh is a little injured, and they have really strong players in strong spots this week. So it's an interesting place to look. And then the last one, just Seattle, Green Bay.
Yeah, you have to.
We got to at least talk about it.
Let's assume, because
Rodgers and Wilson,
for all intent and purposes, yes.
Right. So you go. Do you have anything on this game?
What I would say is, if I could just take some, remember this old term? Didn't use it this year. Some deli slices, some quick deli slices. My thought is you're going to have 2 offenses, maybe a little bit, just a hair out of rhythm, but the best players in a game like this are going to see the ball, because that's what a quarterback who hasn't been playing a lot is going to defer to. If there's any way, Gary just said, I'm okay with playing 2 players in that Steelers game without the quarterback. I would be okay, because of all of their prices, taking Aaron Jones at 6,900, Devontae Adams at 7,900, and DK Metcalf at like 6,700 without any quarterbacks, because I don't think the quarterbacks are going to go off in this game, but I think those big pieces are going to have big days.
Yep.
I don't even know if that's a possible thing, like how they could all have big days without the quarter, but I really do. Really, really, really do.
I'm with you, man. I like it. Let's go to the deli. Let's slice them up real nice and thin. Let's get it ready to go. No, but I'm not touching Russ's side. He's going into Green Bay. He's been out for like 5 weeks. Just not interested. I will sprinkle in some Rodgers. You know the way that guy's brain works. He's going to be angry. He wants to play well. And
by the way, I'll go on the record and say it. I am a Rodgers fan. I still root for him. I don't care about this crap. The thing is, I don't care about that shit. Like, I hate when people like insult your intelligence, and not when it comes to this, but randomly. Like, if there's something I know more than you about, when there's people on Facebook critiquing the acting on Law and Order, as somebody who has a decent amount of experience compared to a relative person, if they were to ask me a question like they know, I don't know how I wouldn't be condescending. Or sound condescending.
Here's the problem.
I guess I have that in common with him.
But here's the problem with what he did with this, is that he then insulted everyone else's intelligence. So it's like it's one thing to be condescending, right? And I agree with you as like a kind of a snarky way to respond to critics. But that asshole went on that Pat McAfee show and just made everyone sound like they're fucking morons. That doesn't, like, he's holier than thou. And I'm also a fan. I'm a fan. I like that he stands by his convictions. You know me. Like, I'm no snowflake. I like that he stands by his convictions. But I think what he did was largely irresponsible.
Yeah. So fortunately,
I
mean, I didn't actually. That's funny. I just know the blowback. I didn't watch. I didn't even watch the clip.
Yeah.
But just the way I look at that is like irresponsible. Who the hell's doing anything based on what Aaron Rodgers says from that perspective?
Hopefully,
if Roger Clemens tells me how to pitch a curveball, I'm going to listen. If he tells me, how to properly moonwalk if you have a bad leg, I'm not listening. It's not his realm.
Would you
the bad leg moonwalk. You've never heard about that?
I would take advice on him how to properly shoot up steroids. I think he'd be good at teaching that lesson, Roger Clemens.
Well, look, we got guys who can help you with that. Don't worry. They're around.
Anyway, Rodgers is going to be angry. I like Rodgers in this spot. Seattle's defense doesn't really scare you. They're at home. Rodgers Adams makes sense. Yeah. He'll be of the Brady, Dak, Allen, Herbert guys, he will be 5th in my exposure, but I'm going to be sprinkling him in and then maybe like 5% Ben. Those are my 6 quarterbacks this week. That's it. I'm not touching anyone else. So there you go. Yeah, my hands are on the table.
Bakhtiari coming back?
I think so. I think they're expecting him back, right? So that helps a lot.
For I guess the running game and Rodgers.
Yep. And I think Rodgers isn't going to be that highly owned. So
yeah, a lot of other crusty games up in here. Just crust.
Yeah.
Crust.
Yep. And then, Indy Jacksonville's just a spot. Like I either want.
Oh, yes, you found a little gold in the crust. I don't think that one's crust. I do think.
I know you have a guy on Jacksonville's side we'll talk about in a second, but I think Jonathan Taylor, between Jonathan Taylor and Najee Harris, who are going to be like these chalky, expensive running backs. I get it. Like both of their floors are so high this week that they are hard chalk to fade. I like fading chalky receivers that have low floors. Those two guys in a good matchup are very hard to fade. And then
you got
Pittman
29.
As well.
You got 29 points, by the way, for this game. So that or for Indianapolis,
right.
And that's the 4th highest on the week. And I just want to remind all of you who played Jonathan Taylor these last couple weeks and you saw him kill it. This is the opposite of what I like. He got the ball a ton in prime time, looked fantastic in prime time, left a great taste in everyone's mouth for prime time. But I'm going to point to the weeks before that. Marlon Mack was not active. They were trying to find a trade partner at the trade deadline, but now he's still on the team, and it's highly unlikely, in my opinion, that he will be deactivated in a game against Jacksonville. So there is the high potential for, according to the numbers, that they're going to be up big. And when you go look at games in previous this season, the amazing thing about Jonathan Taylor is what he's done with the touches that he's been given. They don't give him massive workloads. Yep. So even if he gets to 110 and a touchdown, that might be it. They're not going to keep going like they do with Henry. So if you need a high-priced guy or you need a reason to get away from him, that could be one. But like I told you, 29 points available to them.
Yeah,
I have no problem with you starting Carson Wentz. I do think that they want to get this team on a roll, and I do believe they will. They kept him in there late against the Jets, and he was throwing. You got T.Y. Hilton coming back. If you watch the 2 games he played, he will get looks. He's super cheap if you want to, use him instead of Pittman or something like that. James Robinson came back to practice today. He's only going to be 6,200. You can sneak some, what I call side door points, the points that nobody's looking at in a game that a lot of people are looking at, and a lot of side door points for Marvin Jones. You remember all the looks he was getting earlier in the year, but now it's like, they're using Dan Arnold and Agnew and Shavon. No, this could be a great game for him indoors. This is the type of environment against a defense that you can just snake some points against if they are down late. And with Trevor Lawrence, he'll take them. So those are some ways to get some side door points out of that game.
Yeah, no, I agree with pretty much everything you said there. I don't know if I can get there with Hilton.
You're right, little sniff.
But that's fine. And then Wentz, I used them 2 weeks ago or whatever, or was it last week against the Jets? He had 24. I'm not going there in this game just because even if it isn't Taylor that gets there, they're going to be trying to keep the ball on the ground a lot between Mack and Hines and Taylor. And I just think it eats into his ceiling with all those other super high ceiling quarterbacks on this slate. But
also, Jacksonville got their big moment out of the way. They won last week.
Right. But I do think that if you're not going to go in on Taylor heavy, I think it makes sense to go on Pittman heavy, right? Or the Indy defense. Like I think that all correlates, right? You almost want one of those 3 in most of your lineups because the spot's too good. So
I know this sounds ridiculous, man. But dear God, I'm going to say it. I really don't see. Oh, this will be such a great meme moment. Shit. How Taylor actually hits a mega ceiling.
Really?
Your site has that. Because how? Show me a game that wasn't competitive where he can. It needs to be competitive. It needs to be a close game, like against Baltimore. Or it needs to be a game where they need to keep the foot.
Well, week 6, Houston, 31-3. He had 32 points, right? 145 yards on 14 rushes, 2 touchdowns.
So there you go, though. No.
But you're
relying on 14 carries, and just because he had a couple long. Just look at like, I'm not a nerd numbers guy, but look at the math on that. You want to bank that somebody like him's going to do it with his 14 carries?
Here's the problem.
And also, hold on. I would love to look back at that game and see if any of those carries were in the second half. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I think he did. I think he did break one away. I think he did break one away in the second half. But
all right.
But regardless, the problem with Jonathan Taylor is he's reaching the guy that we probably both like more than him at $100 less, just from an ownership perspective. Dalvin Cook's 8,000, Taylor's 8,100. I think we both can say pretty confidently that even though they're both in great matchups, we like Cook at 10% more than we like Taylor at 20%. But, Taylor now has had literally since week 4 has put up over 20 points in every week, and 3 of those weeks being 30-point plus. Like he is a top 4 fantasy running back right now. It's just
I know.
Straight up. He's very good.
It sounds ridiculous.
He's very good.
I know.
So it's like it's hard to fade totally.
Yeah. I'm not clickbaiting you. I'm just against Jacksonville, who just, oh man, are they due for a letdown after having a huge win?
Yeah. Right.
Sure. Because remember, Mack was deactivated those weeks. If I start showing you earlier in the year when all 3 were active, Taylor was on the field for under half the snaps. We can't be having that for $8,000. We cannot be having a 48% guy for $8,000. I'm sorry, just something to think of. And if you screw yourself, whatever.
I just also think it's like a mini version of the Titans when they're fully healthy. Like they much prefer to be just pounding the ball through the ground game, controlling the game that way. And then when they have to get Pittman and Pascal involved when those guys were healthy, similar to AJ Brown and Julio. Like
it's like
their secondary option.
They're not rolling Marlon Mack out there every other fucking drive when they're up.
Yeah, but I mean, Max touches. It's Hines really that gets the snaps. I mean, Max touches were like 3 to 6, which you're right though. It takes his floor from, a ceiling from like 17 through 21 to like 18 carries ceiling, but like he's so effective with those rushes that it doesn't really scare me, and he gets some targets too. So like, I get it.
Let's let this go, or else we're gonna name it fucking Taylor all day.
I get it though. The volume is slightly concerning in a big spread. I get it. You're right. You're not wrong. That's it. That's all I got. We can go to Men's Warehouse and lineups now because that's all I got.
Yep. You see, like that. I heard that truck saying, "Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!" Okay, so let's go to the Men's Warehouse.
Yeah, should I start?
Well, I'm going to say no because I don't want to hear that truck.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. I'll mute myself while you go.
Yeah. So my Men's Warehouse pick of the week, and the reason I'm going to have to give you 1.5 because I'm very against when I used to see on ESPN, they used to go, "We have a great play for you, fantasy football, great play. Play this lineup, play this player, and you might win." Christian McCaffrey at home against the bottom-ranked defense. Like they'd give you this advice that a cave dweller could have come up with. The Dothraki could have come up with that without any sort of insight. Yeah, Dothraki fantasy football, where how many heads we bringing home? So I'm gonna go with Dalvin Cook. And the reason I'm going to say it is because just like with Terry McLaurin, when you're paying a lot, you want to know that you're getting your fabric's worth. We want to know how many threads are on those suits. And I think Dalvin Suits Cook's going to be primo. Valentino. Okay? He's on the road against the Chargers. I believe Zimmer vowed to get him the ball even more before last game, and it yielded a slightly higher returns. He got over 100. If he does that same amount this week, probably had a couple catches. I think he had like 125, 135 yards. You throw a touchdown on top of that, and you know he has the potential for more than one touchdown on top of that. He's going to be worth it against that Chargers D. Like I told you, they're projected, 28 points, 25 points between those two teams. So it looks like Vegas thinks it's going to be a high-scoring game with points in there. Also a game that's going to be close, which always will benefit a running back. And even if they go down, we know they like to use him in the pass game. So Dalvin Cook is my 1A Men's Warehouse pick of the week. The other one is we're gonna go back to that game we just talked about for years. I'm gonna upload this whole episode in 2 parts.
We're still talking.
Man, I think Marvin Jones is in a good spot. I hate a lot of these Jaguars. I really do. So many times you don't know if they're just going to have one of those awful games. Marvin Jones, I mean, he's not like a fantastic receiver. We saw he was always like the second, third option in Detroit. But indoors against the Colts in a game they should be trailing, theoretically, if you trust the implied team totals by multiple scores. People have forgotten about him because of the emergence of Dan Arnold. Who knows what Robinson's situation is? He practiced it today. Who knows? Even if he plays, he's going to be the full version of him. So they're going to need to move the ball through the air in a dome. I like Marvin Jones as a 1B Men's Warehouse for, I believe he's around 5,800. You're going to like the way Cook and Jones look. I guarantee it.
Absolutely. And, now we're entering double digits of the football season, week 10. So we're both doubling down. We're both giving you two guys this week. I'm going with number one, digging a little deeper into pool. I don't usually give you these like mid-tier, high threes, tight ends guys, but I really do love Pat Firemouth, man. He's got like, what is it? It was like 20 targets over the last 3 weeks, something like that. 18, 20 targets over the last 3 weeks.
You deserve a bonus, though, for using a low-price tight end as your guarantee.
Yeah.
You don't need to give two. You should.
So here's the thing, right? Ben loves him. Of his 33 targets he's gotten on the season from Ben, he's secured 27 of them, 245 yards, 4 touchdowns. 3 of those have come over the last 2 weeks. And now with Claypool out and Smith-Schuster still out, he's propelled himself way up into this top 6-7 tight end territory very easily. And in this matchup, where they need guys to get targets, and dinky old Ben Roethlisberger doesn't like throwing the ball downfield very much. I think Deontay has a really high floor this week too. But I think Firemouth is definitely one of the best tight end plays on this slate. And get him now before the ownership gets crazy going forward here in the next couple weeks. Plus, that price is going to only go up to like at least the Noah Fant range of like mid to high fours. So at 3,900. Great value. Love him this week. And then the other one also, I went to him once again. It really worked out for everyone that week. He was the best play on the slate when I gave it in week 3 or 4. But Mike Williams, Big Mike, been 3 weeks since he's been really productive. But the week before that, he had 40 points. This is as good of a matchup as he's going to get. He's all the way down at 6,600, drawing no ownership. So Mike Williams and Pat Firemouth, rookie tight end from Penn State, like both those guys as my Men's Warehouse pick of the week. So they're going to be dapper in their suits, the Super 300s, count threads, all of that stuff. Looking great.
Okay, so I will take that Mike Williams parlay into my lineup. So this tournament lineup for you, I know it sounds so awful that 3 straight weeks I'm going with the same combination, but this time I actually decided to drop Eckler. And it's not that thing where it's like, oh, I just won on that last week, so I gotta do it again. It's more so when I look at this whole board, I'm just gonna gamble that this one has one of those good ceilings. And you know my theory. I always theorize that those 4 o'clock games have a higher percent chance, with no evidence and no statistics, they have a higher percent chance of hitting the over because of the ruckus factor, the drunk factor. Although it's going to actually only be 1 o'clock over there in Los Angeles. So I'm going with Justin Herbert at quarterback, and I'm double stacking him with both the receivers. It's one of those offenses I love because there's minimal other targets. You get a little Cook here, a little something there. But when that ball's moving down the field, if he's going over 300 yards, man, they're both likely to get over 100. The touchdowns are endless, but really, he's a chucker. Each could have 2. It's not one of those that it's just that type of offense, and I'm deciding to trust. He's earned my trust, and if he screws me, he screws me, but at least he's done it for me more than once, and he's consistent with his attempts, and that's all you can ask for. You know if he's clicking, your stack's going to hit. And by the way, how bad is it when you're lingering around the cash line? Like, you think he's going to do medium? No. Either get me to the promised land or send me home and don't get my hopes up so I can go focus and pretend like I don't care about fantasy football and just be done with it. So on the other side of that game, I'm going to go with my Men's Warehouse pick of the week in Dalvin Cook. I just think it's a great spot for him. Like I said, totals are supposed to be close to each other, which means it's going to be a close game. Keep feeding the running back. I'm also going to go with Conklin, the tight end. He's had consistent targets over the last couple of weeks, and like Gary said, they cover the outsides well. So I know Devontae Smith had a good, but it's always weird with somebody like Hurts. So I'm going with Cook and Conklin on the other side. Then I need to take some side door deli slices, not even side door deli slices out of the highest projected total game with Dallas. I hate that Gary says that it comes with that implied ownership because, they screwed everyone last week, so I wanted to go to that game, but at least I'm not going to go right out the front door. I'm going to trust Pollard in my other running back spot over Zeke, because what if Zeke's a little banged up and you just get a few more touches? You know, he really, talking about Taylor doing a lot with his touches, you know Pollard has the ability to do a lot with his touches. And don't forget, a couple weeks ago, we thought this would be a Dallas beatdown. Now, because what, a good game here, bad game there for both sides, we think this is going to be a close game theoretically. No, there's a chance that Dallas might crush them, and you just get more Pollard carries that way. There's 2 routes to Pollard carries and touches. One potential Zeke limitation with the injury, and another potential Dallas beatdown after being embarrassed last week. I'm also good. This is a gamble, straight up gamble. You know, I don't love it, but I'm going to trust Gallup. He got looks week 1. Go look at week 1. And he's that kind of guy, like David Montgomery just got thrust back into his eye. Now, it's not going to be half. They waited the extra week. It's not going to be half Wilson, half Gallup. Gallup is a good receiver. Okay, he doesn't need to be a number 3. You know, he's a legit receiver, so I think he'll be in. I don't think he'll be limited whatsoever. They truly took their time with him. And on the other side, I guess he's going to be highly owned, but I'll deal with it. Cordarrelle Patterson, indoors in Dallas. Man, does that feel like an environment that will be great for somebody like him. Take some swing passes, maybe take a carry of that to the house. God, I just love those dome games. I really do. And I'm going with the Panthers on defense against Arizona, because you might not get Kyler Murray, and I can assure you they won't underestimate Colt McCoy last week. And you might get an incentivized Carolina D, which you know is good. You know it's good. They know they got Newton coming back. I'm going to assume he's not going to play, but regardless, there's reason for them to show up this week.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we have a lot of crossover. We actually have 3 guys that are in both of our lineups. So,
by the way, that's if for those who are watching, that's 2 games. That's me taking 2 games and making a full lineup. So just know you can make it easy for yourself like that.
Yep. So my side, I'm going to the game that you were in your secondary part. Give me Dak and the Dallas side as my main primary stack here. So I'm going Dak to CeeDee Lamb at 7,000 because I think more people are going to be on Cooper at a much cheaper price. Lamb hasn't really produced now in 2.5, 3 weeks or whatever it was. I guess it was 3 weeks ago now that he had that 40-point spot, and the matchup doesn't scare you at all. So I'm going him and both of our guy, Tony Pollard, this week. So I think that the most optimal constructions in this week are going to end up being paying up in one running back spot and paying way down at the other. Pollard's one of the guys I like this week because of that reason. And also, Zeke's a little hobbled. I think just in general, you're going to get a little bit more Pollard third down work than we have been getting since Zeke has been kind of back to himself since week 3 or so. And that means that he gets always about 2 targets a game as is, but I expect that floor to raise by a couple, so I love pairing him with Dak as the second person of a double stack. So Pollard, Lamb with Dak, and then I'm going the only other option really on the other side, which is Kyle Pitts at tight end.
Have a great week.
So I mean, here's the thing, right? A super high volume day for Atlanta probably benefits Pitts the most. That's just how it's going to be because if they're playing from behind, they have to actually throw the ball at targets. I love Patterson this week too. I think he's got a really high floor. I think Pitts has a slightly higher ceiling and is cheaper overall for your construction. So he's 5,800, Patterson 66. So that's my game stack, double stack Dallas with Pitts. And then we both have Dalvin Cook. We've spoken about it ad nauseum. I'm going with Mike Williams on the other side of that in the secondary. And then wanted pieces of my other 2 favorite games, right? So I wanted pieces of the Buffalo offense because I think they just go off. Cole Beasley, since Dawson Knox has been down, has a super high catch floor once again. You know, he's out of practice right now with his ribs injury. It was the same thing that happened last week, and he still had 8 catches on 11 targets. He's playing. He's going to get his targets. He's had 11 targets, 13 targets, 9 targets the last 3 weeks. I love him at 5,200 as a super high floor guy against the Jets. So I squeeze him in there. And then my other one-off receiver is going to be Tyler Johnson at 3,300 for the Bucs. He's probably the best cheap receiver play of the week, even if one of these guys plays Gronk, maybe even if Godwin or Brown plays one of them. I think if you get 2 out of those 3 guys playing, you go off Tyler Johnson. If only one of them ends up playing, I think Tyler Johnson's still a very good play. He's been a part of the offense last couple of weeks. He had 5
Gronk's out and Brown's out. So, right. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah, not 100%, but it looks like they are going to not play. So, So I love Tyler Johnson at 3,300 this week. And then give me the Titans defense at home against the Saints. Kamara's knee's banged up. I don't know if he's playing. We don't know who's starting a quarterback for the Saints. And the Titans defense has been good, and they're at home. I just think at 2,600, you might be able to finagle your way to a defensive touchdown. So I got Dak with Pollard and Lamb, Pitts on the other side, Cook with Mike Williams, Tyler Johnson, Cole Beasley, and the Titans D.
Great. And with that Jets game, I just keep looking at if Zach Moss doesn't play. We've seen this guy We've seen this guy have the opportunity before, but Singletary's only 46. Just something random to look at.
And the Jets get destroyed against running backs. Destroyed. So it's not a bad call. It's not a bad call.
All right, Gary. I think, we really ran the gamut this week. We've touched all 4 corners. I hope this is a week that, I don't know, I have newfound hope to really see. That's the hope could kill a man, as they say in Shawshank.
We wish everyone the best of luck in week 10. Andy, you got anything else?
That's about it. Gary has his Establish the Run stuff that you can check out. I have a comedy podcast if you like. Subscribe to the show. Let your friends know this is old school. We got nobody pushing this, pushing that. We rely on the help of those who do listen to us, because I'm telling you, I'm not a bullshitter. I enjoy this, but after this season, it's gone if it doesn't grow a little bit. Let's talk to you guys later, and we'll see you next week.
Good luck.